You may have seen many YouTube videos about ChatGPT or GPT-4 and other open source large language models. For short, we call them LLM. So what about my video? This and upcoming video bring something new to the table. Currently, there are two primary gaps in the content. Firstly, many people are primarily concentrating on chat applications where they compare the ChatGPT with open source models like Vicuna, Gibanaco, and others. Secondly, there is a collection of video out there that focus on various applications like summarization, database creation, and custom AI agents. These videos typically use model from OpenAI with a few exploring open source LLMs. However, a detailed comparison of these open source LLM with ChatGPT has not been undertaken yet. This leads to two important questions that my video series will address. Is the open source models as effective as GPT-4? What sources are necessary to effectively use these models? In my upcoming series, I'll conduct a comparison between open source LLM and GPT-4 using document from Financial Market News as our case study. Now let's start our first comparison in this series between the OpenAI models and stable Vicuna and Vicuna 13 billion 1.1. We are comparing stable Vicuna LM 13 billion and Vicuna 13 billion 1.1 and with the OpenAI GPT. So let's first look at the performance of the OpenAI GPT. So we install the necessary Python packages. Okay, and then we set up the LangChain, and also we specify the OpenAI key here. So you can replace your key here from the OpenAI, and we then import the necessary libraries. We download the data here, and you can download this data from my GitHub account by using these codes. So this is the article that I'm using here, and we initializes our directory loader to load the text file from the specified directory, and then we initializes the recursive character text splitter with a specified chunk and the overlap. And then we create a database where the embedding will be stored. We set up the OpenAI embeddings and then use this Chroma module to convert text into embedding using the OpenAI embeddings here. And then persist the generating embedding database to disk, releases the memory held by VectorDB object by setting it to none. And then we initializes the Chroma object from a persisted directory with a specified embeddings. We then make a retriever here. So you can find some details here in the comments that this K3 argument suggests the retrieval will return the top 3 similar vector for each query. Then we make a chain here, initializes a retrieve QA with object with the specified OpenAI retriever and the chain type here. So LLM we are using is the OpenAI. And then this function processes the response from the LM model and prints the results and the resources as well. So it will give us the citations. So let's first look at the questions and the queries. So the first question I ask, could you please enumerate the companies that have been highlighted for their potential stock growth? So the answer is the companies that have been highlighted for their potential stock growth are the Arbor, Tesla, Kaplan, Microsoft, Nvidia, Shopify, Intuitive Surgical, and this. So you can find the details for these companies here. So we have these 8 companies which this OpenAI model correctly specify all these companies. Next question that I ask, how many companies that have been highlighted for their potential stock growth? So it just said 8, and here we have the 8 companies. Okay, so the next questions, okay, what are the top 5 companies and how much did their stock value increase? So it gives us the by 74% NVIDIA, 34%, CrowdStrike 30%, and Shopify saw a rise of 19%. And then, so it specified the first 4 companies, and then it said our insight and articles about these stocks collectively yield a remarkable 57% return last month for our readers. So if we just look at the text here, so this is the information that it picked up here. So all these 4 first one, and then it picked up this information. So it didn't specify the 5th companies here. It was in the article. Next, I ask a simple question. How much Microsoft invested in OpenAI? So Microsoft has invested $1 billion in OpenAI. Okay, and then also the listed the sources. And next, I ask a bit difficult questions. What were the reasons behind the Shopify decision to lay off a portion of its workforce? And so the answer is to reduce the overhead cost and make Shopify assets light in the long run. In the long run. So the last question is how does NVIDIA dominance in the GPU market contribute to strategic position in the AI industry? So let's look at the answer. NVIDIA dominance in the GPU market allows them to provide hardware like their A100, H100 chips to AI platform like ChatGPT, Alphabet's AI3 supercomputers. This reinforces confidence in NVIDIA technological leadership and has helped drive their high prices. So if you look at the document, this is about the NVIDIA. So just have a look at the NVIDIA is number 5. So let's scroll down to number 5. So you can see here that, okay, so this is about internal training I perform like ChatGPT utilizes A100 chips. So it took this information from here. And then we have like A3 relies on H100 chips here. So I think the answer is quite accurate. Okay, so let's first now look at the other models. Vicuña, this 13 billion 1.1 model. So before going into that, let's first look at the leaderboard of the OpenAI from the Hugging Face. Yeah, so from the Hugging Face here. So if you look at this model is this is the leaderboard from the Hugging Face from the open model, open source model, LLM models. So this Vicuña 13.B-1.1 by Blue here is 35 place, right? So we check this model. We start with this model, and then in the upcoming videos, I'll be covering some more model from the top here as we go and check randomly some of these models, like which model is going to give us the better result. Okay, so before so the questions would be how to run this model. Okay, one option is to use ProCollab, and if you can like if you use GPU, and then it should be something like A100. But one of the problem I face with the ProCollab is it has like 100 compute units, and with me I think it's just finished in one day. So in my opinion, the better option is to use the run pod to hire the GPU. It has 2 versions like Secure Cloud and the Community Cloud. And for these kind of models, I think you can use with you can run these models with 28 GB RAM as well. But I would suggest to use something like this with 48 GB RAM. It has a cost of $0.69 per hour. But one thing is that it's really quick, and with me, all this code was just finished like in 15 minutes. So it saves a lot of cost here instead of using the Pro Collab or which just finishes the compute very quickly. One thing you need to remember that whenever you just click on this, so then you just customize this to some big number like 120 kind of things, and then you can set up. It's quite easy, and then one is connected. You can just open the Jupyter notebook, and then you can upload this code that would be available at my GitHub, and I'll provide the link, and then you can run those models very quickly here. Okay, so let's now look at the performance of this. The rest of the things are very much similar to the one we saw previously. We install the packages here. We set up the LangChain. We import the libraries here. We download the data that we are using here. Okay, we initializes a directory loader here, and you can find some detail here in the comments as well. Okay, so here's the model that I'm using here, this Vicuña 13 billion. Okay, so I experimented with two things. First, I just uncommented this and used the loads in 8-bit for like a memory utilization. Me on this run port, it just finished like 10 minutes. The results were very worse. Then I tried to use this float 16 again, but let's look at here. And for the embedding, I'm using Hugging Face embeddings, and for this I'm using the model here is E2 large, and I'll be using this model for the next all the coming videos here. Maybe you can try a different model and see if you can get a better results than with this model. And then we set up the pipeline here. So we set up the pipelines, we run these codes, we create a database memory here where all the settings, all the embeddings will be stored here. Okay, and then rest of the steps are quite similar as ones we saw previously. We make a retriever. We just specify like 3 more similar vectors for each query. We make a chain here, and then we specify the LM model, citations, other things. So let's look at the first questions. The same question that I asked with the OpenAI GPT. So could you please enumerate the companies that have been highlighted for their potential growth? So what it says that yes, 8 companies that have been highlighted for their potential growth, I think is the answer is accurate here. If we just look at start comparing some of the questions and answers to. Okay, so the companies that have been, so this is the first questions, the companies that have been highlighted. So it didn't say 8 companies. The one thing he added is that 8 companies that have been highlighted here. So this is a good thing, the first good answer here. Okay, the second is how many companies that have been highlighted for their potential stock growth here. So it said, I'm sorry, I don't see any information, so was not able to pick up this questions very well here, was not able to answer. Then just to recall that, so the answer was just 8 here, and it was able to answer the first, but it was not somehow is able to answer here. Maybe like if you change the question type, probably it will give answer, but because I wanted to make a comparison, so I didn't change the questions here. Okay, so the another question was how much has Microsoft invested in OpenAI? According to text, Microsoft has invested $1 billion in OpenAI, so this was accurate. Okay, so the next question was tougher. What were the reason behind the Shopify decision to lay off a portion of its workforce? Based on the information, it is not explicitly stated why Shopify decided to lay off a portion of it. However, it mentioned that the company implemented significant changes to adapt to changing landscape, including logistic business to Flexport, reducing overhead costs. Yeah, somehow in the end it was able to answer the questions, but in the beginning was say something. So I would say the answer is correct here. Then dominance, NVIDIA. How does NVIDIA dominance in the GPU market contribute to strategic position in the AI industry? So NVIDIA dominance in the GPU market gives a strong position in the AI industry because Many AI algorithms require specialized hardware such as GPU to run Since the NVIDIA is the leading manufacturer of GPU, it has a market share. So I think that his answer is pretty good here. Not as good as with the OpenAI GPT, but still this answer is good. But again, it was not able to answer two of the questions. Okay, so now let's look at the another model is the StableQDM model here. StableQDM model is not here on this. I don't know why the Hugging Face have not tested here. So let's look at the first performance, and then we'll discuss a little bit how this model is. So StableQDM 13 billion. So the steps are pretty much same. To install the packages here, we retrieve LangChain Retriever with ChromaDB. We import the libraries here. We get the data here, and directory load text file from the specified directory. Okay, so then we have the model here. So this is the model we are running here with the Fluke StableQDM, and here I'm using actually load in 8 bits and also float 16 for like memory utilization. Probably you can try with the the full precision and see if you can run those model. But yeah, so and then we get the Hugging Face embedding. So it's same as the E5-log v2 here. And then we have here the pipeline. Okay, so then we create the database with this. And then we make a retriever, we make a chain as was done previously. Okay, so now let's first look at the first questions that we ask. So could you please enumerate the companies that have been highlighted for their potential stock growth here? Okay, one of the things that we are getting here, I think the people have also found or pointed out these issues before me as well. So it's giving something like human assisted, all this stuff is giving something here. But his answer is fine. I think the companies that mentioned for their potential stock growth are these companies here. Okay, so then we have to make some function to remove all this stuff here. And now we ask the same questions again. So the companies, yeah, so I think the answer is correct here. You can see Microsoft, NVIDIA, Shopify are like good for the growth, for their potential growth here. Okay, and then how many companies that have been highlighted for their potential stock growth? So there are 8 companies that have been highlighted. Okay, yeah, so that's a good answer. But again, it's giving something, something extra guidance or something extra. Open a broker account, research stock, play something which is not, which is something very extra, not needed here. Okay, so second, we ask the questions, what are the top 4 companies that have been highlighted here? I think I have asked 5. So again, its answer is quite similar to like this GPT one, OpenAI. And this question is, how much has Microsoft invested in OpenAI? Microsoft has invested $1 billion in OpenAI, so that's fine. And what are the reasons behind the Shopify decision to lay off a portion of its workforce? So Shopify decision to lay off a portion of work to reduce overhead and become more light. I think this is the answer. If you remember, this was the answer from the GPT as well, from the OpenAI. So yeah, so this is the answer was up to this point here. So yeah, so I think his answer is quite here, but he's added some extra information. I think his answer is quite good here. I think maybe is better than the OpenChat GPT, but again, it's giving some information here. Okay, how does NVIDIA dominance in the GPU market contribute to strategic position in the AI industry here? So NVIDIA's dominance in the GPU market provides them with a strong recommendation for their role in the AI industry. Okay, let's talk about then their expertise in developing GPU allow them to a trusted provider of hardware for many generative AI. Okay, but its answer is still missing something. It's not good as that one. Okay, if we compare this one, so somehow this model is doing good. we can say maybe it's doing good as much as like 95% of the open source GPT. Again, but it's doing quite better than this model here. But one of the things that I was thinking, why the Hugging Face have not tested this model, which is better than this Vicuña 13 billion 1.1. So thank you for watching this video. I'll be coming up with a new video in the same series, and we'll be testing a new model.